Bienvenidos and welcome back, familia, to another awesome conversation. Today is Tuesday, and we are not having our usual Taco About It Tuesday with music. We're going to talk about something else. You want to tell them what we're going to talk about while I fix this mic?
Sure. We're going to talk about feeling when you're feeling lonely, and if there's been a time
Unmute. Boom, there it is. Okay, it just lost connection for a little bit. All right, so no sound.
we were just
talking. Listen, so we're back, and today we are talking about.
Oh man,
go ahead.
What I had said when I was over there. We're gonna just talk about when loneliness, about when you felt it, how we can help. We're gonna look at some quotes, talk about our experiences, and what we can do to overcome that or get through it.
Get through it. We're hoping that we can have a conversation that we can help one another shine a little bit of light into this topic of loneliness. Like, have you ever, so if we can just start off with a simple question, have you ever felt like you were dealing with your problems by yourself? Have you ever felt lonely? We're not just talking about romantically, right?
Yeah.
Some of us have felt lonely romantically, like we feel like we don't have a partner, or maybe like maybe we do have a partner and we feel like we are misunderstood, or we don't know, or they don't know us very well enough, and we might feel lonely. A lot of us, you'll hear my that was my dryer. If you haven't heard it, I'm gonna call today, and anyway, that's a whole different story. But sometimes for some of us, we could be surrounded by a lot of people. We can be in a room full of people, and we still have this weird feeling of loneliness. And today we're just going to have a conversation about that and see where everyone is with regarding feeling lonely. But before we get started, I want to share some quotes with you all that I found regarding this. These are scripture that I found. But I do want to start off with a tiny prayer. So this is the first time that I'm doing this without Pastor Mike and Andrew sort of like giving me that little shove, right? So familia, if you could just join me in silence very briefly. We're just going to give thanks, and we're going to hopefully invite the Great Spirit to join us in this conversation and hopefully shine light into this. Okay, so here we go. Great Father, Great Spirit, we invite you to join us on this conversation, and we ask that you send your advocate, the Holy Spirit, to help guide us and give us the right words that we need to help someone out there who may be dealing with this terrible issue that a lot of us have felt during 2020, which was loneliness. A lot of us felt like we were dealing with our issues by ourselves. A lot of us were walking this planet feeling misunderstood or not understood at all. Many people lost jobs, lost family members, lost friends, and we started to feel like we were dealing with our internal world completely by ourselves. And this conversation is in depth. We were in desperate need of this conversation so that we can shine light, not just into the happenings of the external world, but that we can better understand our internal world. And we ask all of this in your Son's name, Jesus. Amen. All right, very simple and to the point. We're just asking for that guidance. We're asking for that help. So, familia, thank you. Here are some quotes that I found, okay? Where is it? Oh, I forgot that I need to share this. Let me share that screen. Share screen. This is nerve-wracking here because I'm gotta make sure I share. There it is.
There we go.
Okay, cool. And it was already there. Okay, cool.
Nice.
So I like this verse. This is one of the verses that I found very helpful with regards to feeling lonely. So come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. First of all, shout out to all of you who explained what yoke was last time. I confused it for yolk, Y-O-L-K. That's not what it is. That's an egg yolk. That's not what we're talking about, and we're not talking about dad yolks either.
I was like, wait.
But you know,
Yeah.
this quote I specifically like because he says, "Come to me,
Yeah.
come to me." I mean, yeah, this is an invitation for all of us to come home. Come home. And home is not out there. Home is not up there. Home is inside of you. It already is inside of you. And I'm going to share a beautiful story that I heard many, many years ago in this. It reminded me of this. And it wasn't specifically like a Christian story, but I really like it. And I'm going to apply it here because it's going to make so much sense to you. But what this quote is saying is, it says, come to me. Come to me. Like, so you're not dealing with this by yourself. Come to me, all of you who are working super hard and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. I'll give you rest. And he's saying, and he gives us the recipe here. He says, take my yoke upon you and learn from me. What do you think of when you hear this?
Well, take my yoke. Well, take how he had on him and all his burdens and all of that to do it. So we do it, put it on.
It's like a cross, right?
Yeah,
cross.
We put it on ourselves, and to know that it's not like as heavy as it really is, like, because it's lighter than what it is, I guess, how we were explaining
right
earlier.
So here Christ is saying, learn from me. Learn from me, for I am gentle. So he's saying, be gentle, be patient, right? And that's okay. And lowly in he's gentle and lowly in heart. So it doesn't take a lot of things to heart. It's very lighthearted, and you will find rest for your soul. So he says, for my yoke is easy, and my burden is light. So he took on the burden. He took on the whole world, took on the entire world. And yet he's saying, my burden is light.
It's like easier.
It's easy. For me, he's not holding on to anything. Like, he doesn't carry his past with him. He doesn't project onto the future and carry that on his shoulder. He's saying, like the song Sparrows, we were listening to it in the drive, right? Like, the sparrow's not worried about tomorrow, right? Like, the animals are not worried about tomorrow. They're not stressed about the past. They're just doing their thing day by day, right? And so here Christ is saying, learn from me, because my yoke is easy and my burden is light. So that's one quote. Here's another quote that I came across. Fear not, for I am with you. Fear not, for I am with you. And it's just a very subtle reminder that even in our loneliest moments, when we feel we're not, when those moments that we feel completely alone, God is saying here, fear not, don't be afraid, because I am with you. I'm with you always, is what it says, right? And here's another one. The Lord himself goes before you and will be with you, and he will never leave you nor forsake you. So do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. So when you are feeling afraid, when you are feeling discouraged, it's very important that we remember that God is always with us, always. And you cannot let your fleshy eyes deceive you just because you don't see God, because your eyes will only be focused on everything that's what? Negative.
Of course. Yeah.
Right?
We don't focus on the positive. We always tend to just focus on the negative.
We always have a tendency of focusing on the negative. And this is just bringing our attention to what's real, to the truth, familia. And he's saying, stay with me and be in the truth. And so where in this scenario, where is God? Where is he? He's within. And remember, we've been talking about this within our Holy Spirit conversation, that when Christ left, he sent his advocate. He sent the Holy Spirit to be with us, so that we can have a teacher, so we can have someone to remind us of what Christ has said. And these are just little, very, very subtle reminders that we are not alone, that we always have access to God if we can bring ourselves to stillness, and we can be in the silence.
Yeah.
Right? How do you handle things when you're feeling lonely? Like, well, before we talk about solutions, like, what are some of the reasons why people may feel lonely? Familia, if you can answer in the live chat, while Erika lets us know what she.
Yeah, well, I felt personally lonely in many different situations. One of the ones that you've mentioned was being in a room full of people, surrounded by people. I've been one of those people where I've still felt alone. And I think a lot of it has to do with, I feel like I'm being judged, or I'm not in the same element as they are, even though I'm in the room with them. So I still feel like I'm an outsider. I feel like I'm alone, and like they don't understand me, or some people choose not to try to understand me or converse with me. So then in that way, I feel like, okay, well, I'm just going to sit over here in the corner, and I'm not going to go out of my way to, I don't know, be embarrass myself, or a lot of shame. That's where that comes from. So then I feel like I tend to isolate myself because I feel like they're kind of judging me, and I've gone that. So then I feel alone, even though there's like 20 people surrounding me. Like I feel like I'm by myself. And then there's moments where I am by myself and I feel like, yeah, I'm by myself. Sometimes I choose to be, but I feel like I'm alone when I need somebody to talk to about something, or I want to go to somebody specific, like a friend or something. Sometimes I feel like I don't have those. So then I think to myself internally, like, why am I so lonely? Like, why doesn't anybody want to like talk to me? Or I start thinking there's something wrong with me. So that's like another thing. Like, and I've done it where I've reached out to people, like, and I don't get anything in return. And then like the quotes say, like, well, we're really not alone. Like, I know that I have God. I just, sometimes I can be honest, I forget like to go there, or I get so wrapped up with wanting like human to like come and tell me like they're here for me. I don't know how that makes any sense.
Yeah,
like I want
we all
like that
have,
physical.
yeah, we all have this desire to have people in the world tell us that we're okay, or to understand us. I don't really think that is 100% healthy. I don't want to say that's healthy for us to rely on somebody else to tell us what we already know internally. We already know, but somehow we just want it reflected back to us externally, right? And it's a hard situation to be in, because we want well, for example, my grandfather used to tell me that every mind is its own world, every head is its own world. So as I grow up, I start forming my map of the external world based on my experiences with people, how I interact with people. My grandfather taught me certain things, and I made that a part of my map to the world. My experience growing up with my mother, and the tension that was, that we had that was between us, because of my father and because of my stepfather. Like, all of these things also gave me things to add to the internal map that I had of the external world. And sometimes we take these maps to be the territory, and we make it so that it's so real. So when the external world doesn't match that internal map, we get thrown into confusion, and then we want somebody to understand, where we're coming from, but it's almost impossible. It's almost impossible for other people to understand you, because they don't know your maps.
Yeah.
They have a different map, and for them, the territory says, well, there's a mountain here, and you're like, there's no mountain there. There's no mountain there. Yes, there is. There's a mountain there, and it's like, no. There is no mountain there. And so you're both looking at internal maps, and you're gonna have things that are gonna differ. And then that's where you're going to feel, well, like, nobody really understands my map. No one wants to even know what my map looks like. And I think it's important for all of us to start to do away with those maps, or to start to reevaluate whether our map is accurate, because maybe we need to go back into that territory and see and delete the things that are not really there, and add things that we may have missed, that could help us navigate through that situation a little bit cleaner, a little bit smoother. Like, some of we went on vacation this weekend. I'm not used to being out like in the water and the lake and all that stuff. This is my second time being on a boat, and it was very educational, because I just overhearing what the guy was telling her dad, who is going to be owning a boat soon, was just telling them, like, okay, these are the things that you have to be careful in the water. You have to look out for when the waves are doing this, and you want to avoid that because this happens, or you might get rockiness and all this stuff. And it's like, her dad was starting to make an internal map of what it's like to be in the water, so that when he does get his boat, he knows what to be aware of, what terrain to sort of like avoid, and what to gear towards, to avoid like rough waters, right? And so it's important that we take a look at those internal maps. What do you think is something in your internal map regarding loneliness that you've discovered that you had wrong? Like,
Probably like most of it. I mean, to be completely honest, a lot of it, I kind of cause, I don't want to say I cause all of my loneliness, because I don't want to say it, like put it all on me, but I think a lot of it is that I'm very insecure. So a lot of times my insecurity makes me feel more alone than what I actually am. And it's hard for me to pull myself out of that insecurity or those insecure thoughts or feelings or emotions. And I'm an emotional person. I'm learning to be more practical with things, but I've always been an emotional person, because I think it has to do with a lot of how big my heart is, to be honest. I just really do like have a huge heart. So I take everything to heart. So I don't know, I guess if I had to, I don't know, to pinpoint one thing that I internalize when I'm feeling lonely, that I got wrong. That's your question, right? Like one of the things that I've internalized about feeling alone that I got wrong. Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah, an idea that you had about yourself, about being lonely, that later on you discovered that. Like, it's not really that I'm lonely. It's maybe that I just need this other thing, or maybe.
Well, then it'd have to go to me being in a room with people kind of thing. And I feel like people don't, like, I already tell myself internally, like, oh, they don't like me or they don't want me around. So I'm just going to go over here and be alone. And I was wrong the whole time, because not the whole time, because there are some people, but for the most part, like I was giving this thought that actually wasn't even there. So that's one of the big things that I cause myself to be lonely in a room, but it also has to do with I get nervous. But I think that one, if I had to pinpoint one of them, it would be something like that, where I already assume that I'm not liked, or that nobody wants me around. So then I'm just like.
That could be a rough thing for an introvert, someone who's used to just being by themselves.
Which is weird. Not weird. Well, it's interesting, because I think I have a mixture of both. I feel like I am an extrovert and I'm an introvert. Like, did I say that right? Introvert? Yeah. I feel like I'm both, but I catch myself now being a little bit more reserved. But I think that has to do with a lot with, again, like you said, like bringing up the past. It has a lot to do with my past. Feeling more, I built boundaries now.
And those boundaries are important. Like recovery, Connie says, perfectionism and people pleasing can cause me loneliness, because I won't be real and authentic.
That's a good one. People pleasing is a big one. Big one.
We set standards, and it's interesting because I've noticed that some people set really high standards for themselves, but they'll allow other people to to get away with certain things, and they'll bend over backwards just to be able to just please that person, or to avoid conflict, right, is one way. The thing that I've dealt with this recovery is helping other people out of their issues. And then when I myself am going through a hard time, I feel like no one's there, or maybe they're like you're a firefighter, you're putting out fires. How do I help you when your house is on fire? And it's like, you're the firefighter, I come to you, so how can I help you? Maybe it's that, maybe they feel like they can't help you. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, helping other people, like we've done it a lot, and it's like, then you're like, well, I need to vent, or I need some advice, and it's like, whereas those people, in a sense, sometimes they got what they needed from the people pleasers or the helpers, and that's something that we've both actually struggled with.
And I think you can be both introvert and extrovert. There's a line, because there are people who I can mingle with for hours and hours and hours and hours, and we cut off a conversation, and it's like, I wish we had more. Like Pastor Chad, I could probably hang out with him for a really, really long time. And then there's scenarios where I can go and have fun for a little bit, and then I could just be honest. I don't drink, so if it's a situation where there are people who may be drinking, I start to sort of like back away a little bit, because I feel like they're having fun. I don't want to interrupt that fun. I don't want to be like the party pooper, because I'm not drinking,
And then when people drink, they tend to get like pushy, like, oh, come on. And then you don't want to be like no, I'm good. And they just keep going, it's kind of.
And at that point, I'd just rather be home watching Netflix and and eating ice cream.
Yeah, I've been on the other end. And I'm more of an introvert now, I feel, more so now. But to be honest, I feel like in the times that I was like an extrovert. I used to go out and I used to use alcohol.
Good night, Linda. Sorry.
Oh, that's
Good night,
okay.
Linda.
Good night, Linda. I used to drink alcohol, and it was more so to numb some feelings. I had that that I was going through some trauma, and so, but I feel like, and I would go out a lot and with friends and stay out late, and that was before I really even met him. It was just, I was this dark time, and so I felt like me being that extrovert, like I wasn't myself. I was putting up an act. I really wasn't actually an extrovert. I was always an introvert, but because I was going through what I was going through, and I had friends that, which is okay. I have nothing against, my friends wanting to have a good time. They were doing it for a different reason. They really wanted to have a good time. I was doing it to hide pain, and they didn't know that. And I would go out, and then I was doing it more so because I was like I said, hiding my pain, and because I saw them having a good time, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to do it just to hide. And even then I felt really, really lonely.
That's very, first of all, that's very honest of you. So thank you for your honesty.
You're welcome.
Secondly,
it's kind of hard to say, but I mean,
yeah. Secondly, it's very insightful because loneliness sometimes is coupled with escape, right? Sometimes you feel lonely. Maybe you're the type of person that will lock themselves up in the room and just cry and be, just allow that emotion to just overpower you, right? Or to just allow it to do its thing, do whatever it does. But then you have other people who feel lonely and they use people to escape, right? So maybe they feel unloved, and so they won't actually have a relation. They won't actually be in an actual relationship, but they'll go from girl to girl or man to man and just, play here, play there, play here, play there, and then go back home and then feel like good about themselves because they just pretty much use the person as a Band-Aid, and then the Band-Aid comes off and now they use another person as a Band-Aid, and then the Band-Aid comes off and they use another person. And some people are actually in a relationship, but they don't know how to love that person. They don't know, they still feel lonely, and they still go out and cheat and do all these different things as a form of escape. And for some people it's alcohol too. They use alcohol to escape, just as you mentioned. Other people use different hobbies to escape. I mean, there's healthy escapes, and then there's very unhealthy escapes, right? And so
I went for the unhealthy escape. I was afraid of the healthy escape, if I can be honest. I don't know. I wasn't ready to be helped. I wasn't even ready to talk about what was going on. So going and doing that was like a choice that I made, drinking. And even if it wasn't going out, I would sometimes do the other thing. I'd go home and I'd be in my room. And then that's when the depression hit, and it was just overwhelming of emotions a lot. And then the drinking happened again. And then I was alone. I was doing it by myself in my room. And a lot of people didn't know that about me because I also kept that to myself. Because then afterwards, you numb the pain, and then you don't feel the pain, and then the next day you actually feel 10 times worse. You don't. It doesn't. It's a temporary
fix,
and it's not. What's the eternal? Or not eternal. Permanent. There you go. It's not a permanent fix.
Yeah.
And
yeah, absolutely right. Recovery says, yes, fear of rejection and abandonment makes me hide, but then creates loneliness.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm going to pair that one with this one. It says, I believe that the key to battling loneliness is seeking discomfort. One way to make friends is going to a particular place regularly. Beautifully said, both of you.
Yeah.
This is part of my journey. There was a while back, I couldn't go out without brushing my hair and making sure that I was nice and clean shaven and my shirt was ironed and that I looked, presentable, because I wanted people to accept me. And a lot of times I wasn't being myself. Right. Yeah. So I went through this really bad relationship a few years back, and it didn't end well. So I gave myself a few months, like I just wanted to be completely by myself, and I let my beard grow. I let my hair grow. I sort of forced myself to go out into the public and be uncomfortable with the looks and just say, that's fine, I'm okay, because I'm being myself and this is who I am. And I little by little started to gain that confidence that I can grow out my mustache and not worry about what people think. I can, let my hair grow and shave it to the side, or I can be bald. It really doesn't matter what I look like or what I wear. Like, for example, the shirt wasn't ironed. Like that would have been a huge no-no back then,
Yeah.
And then of course making a live probably would have been out of the question, because I needed to be perfect, and I needed it to say the things and cut out all my ums and uhs and all of that needed to be cut off. And it was so refreshing. I think this is one of the things that I loved about this channel, is that you all welcomed me just the way that I was, and it allowed me and gave me permission to be confident in my spirituality, which has always been strong with me. And in that phase, I let my hair grow out. I started doing meditation and started doing yoga. Okay, regardless of how you feel about those two things, just hear me out. I just started to spend a lot of time with myself. I was afraid of being lonely, so I actually put myself in a lonely position. I wasn't dating anyone. I wasn't listening to any music, like world music. I was just listening to nothing but positive tunes. I would, walk when I would be out in the street. I'm a people watcher. I like to just like look at people and see like their facial expressions, or, it's not judgmental. It's not like, oh my God, look at that guy, or look at that girl, or whatever. It was never anything like that, but it was just being silent and observant and being able to see all these weird things that would come up in me. like it wasn't judgy, but there were some judginess like that would arise in me. And I would just grab it and look at it and say, why do I need to say that about this person? What is that person bothering me? That person's not bothering me. He's not bothering anyone. Let him, if he wants red hair, let him have red hair. If he wants to have blue or green hair, let him have blue or green hair.
If he wants to grow out his mustache, I mean, whatever.
Yeah, if he wants to grow out his mustache, let him grow out his mustache. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So being by yourself, just putting yourself in that position. If you're afraid, I think there's nothing like it. Like if you're afraid of the water, get in the water. Like you're right.
Yeah, he went in the water.
Right, and I was in the water. If you're afraid of being in the middle of a lake because you don't know how to swim, or you're not comfortable with how far you can swim, put yourself in the boat and just do it. If you're afraid of being alone, put yourself alone. If you're afraid of going to the movies by yourself, go to the movies by yourself. I did for so long. In fact, one of my favorite things to do to sort of escape and have a healthy escape from it, and I made some friends there too, was I would just go out to karaoke night and I would just sing. And I wasn't the best singer, but what I did was I recorded myself. Another thing that I was really uncomfortable with, I recorded myself singing, and then I'd go home and watch it. Another thing that I'd be uncomfortable with, watch the footage, sort of critique myself, say, okay, then practice it. Okay, next time I'm gonna sing it like this. Then I'd go back, sing the same song, record it again, and see my improvement. And then go, okay, now all I need to do is improve this little section. Okay, and improve it. And before you know it, I had a really great song that I was really comfortable with from beginning to end. But I wouldn't have gotten there if I didn't put myself in an uncomfortable position. That's just the way that
you kind of have to like learn to be like comfortable with being uncomfortable sometimes. I've heard that before, like a quote.
That's something actually that I learned from yoga, because you're stretching and you're holding a position and you're like your body is like, okay, don't, come on, we're not used to stretching this way. Can we quit? And your body's like shaking, or you're like having trouble breathing, and you just remember, okay, breathe. It's okay. It's going to be all right. It's only for a few breaths. You're going to be okay. And you center yourself and you're like, okay, my body is suffering, but there's no need for my mind to be suffering. My body is uncomfortable, but there's no reason for why I should be uncomfortable. In fact, I told her this story a long time ago. I had a puppy, I had a dog, and I would walk about maybe half a mile to a little park, a park right from my house. But one night, this little dog wanted to go out at 2 a.m. So I walked out, and it didn't like to go in the front yard. So we'd walk, and I'm over there cold, right? And I'm layered up, and I have like a bunch of shirts and a jacket, and I'm layered up and it's cold. And then she suddenly decides that she's going to sit and watch this tree because the squirrel was always there. She knew the squirrel was there. So she would just sit there and just watch, and she would be shaking, but she was focused, super hyper focused. And I'm thinking, I would tug her leash and I'd be like, come on. And this was, by the way, the yoga time, around that time when I was spending time with myself. So I'm like, come on, like, go to the bathroom already. Like, I'm cold. I wanted comfort. I wanted to go back to my warm house and just relax, and go to sleep. And this puppy was shaking, but just watching this tree. And then it hit me. It was like the dog was it was my Zen master and was teaching me to be relaxed. It was like, I look at the dog and I'm like, well, she's cold, obviously, because she's shaking, but she's focused. She's not complaining about it. I am. And I'm supposed to be the smarter one, right? Like, right? And I'm looking at this dog shiver, and then finally I was like, can I do that? Can I be okay, even though I'm suffering physically? I'm cold, but can I be okay in here? Can I be all right in here? Can I just go with it? Can I go with the flow? Is that possible? And then I did it. I was like, okay, yes, it's cold. I accepted. I surrendered to what was. I surrendered to the situation, and I was like, okay, I'm cool. I'm cold, yes, but we're here on business, and if that dog can be patient, so can I.
Yeah.
I waited. She went, did her business. We went back to comfort. We have to put ourselves in those positions, right?
Yeah.
What you think about that?
I think it's true. We have to sometimes overcome what we're feeling uncomfortable. Like, we can do it. It's just, a lot of it is just, we have to be a little more patient with ourselves and just really see it and be like, okay, we can, we're uncomfortable, but we can become comfortable. We know we can find ways to be comfortable. And that's, like you said, just surrendering. Just, this is where we're at. Can't really change it. We just get through it. Let's just get through it. Oops, I'm sorry. I hit the mics.
No, it's okay. We're getting some good feedback here. Going to the movies by myself is scary. Have you ever done that?
I've never gone to the movies by myself. I've gone to lunch by myself or like a coffee date by myself, but not actually to the movies. Not because I never wanted to. I just never actually really even thought about the idea of, today I want to go to the movies and by myself, or during the day. I mean, most of the time when I've gone to the movies, it was in the evening, and I wouldn't recommend going by myself in the evening, the nighttime by myself.
Yeah, probably not.
So that's why I've never done it.
Eric Davis, hi, senor.
Oh,
welcome.
hi, Eric Davis.
All this talk about hair, and I'm sitting over here bald. But I love having no hair to manage.
My dad's bald, so.
Having no hair to that, yeah, like, whatever. I manage my hair.
Yeah, he manages his hair.
Yes, going to the movies by yourself can be kind of scary, but I've done it, and I got the weird looks, but I needed to exercise that just to be comfortable. This is what I want to do. I want to watch this movie. Nobody wants to watch it.
This is what I
want to
do. Like, you just say, like,
hey, this is what I want to do. Nobody want to come watch this movie with me. I go by myself, you know. Yeah. But yeah, so I went by myself. Nobody wanted to watch it with me, so I go. I'm not gonna wait for it to come out in Redbox and watch it in my house. Like,
yeah, I get what you're saying. I've had like fears of like uncomfortable moments of like asking for something at a grocery store, or like asking a clerk, or even like returning something and I didn't have my receipt, stuff like that. Like, I've had like, no, I don't want to do it. And there's been times where I've even said, nobody could help me, so I didn't ask, like, because I was just too nervous. I had the fear of doing it. I didn't want to do it.
Yeah, I have the same issues. Like,
but now I've gotten better.
Yep.
Because I think of the 10 years of experience working in customer service. Now I'm just like, just approach it politely and with, and if they say just wait, then I'll say, okay, yeah, take your time. Like, I'm here, like, just being patient,
Yeah, and practice little things. That's why we have the girls practice ordering their own food.
Yeah, Lena, you did really good this, and Luna.
Yeah.
They asked clearly, and it was good.
Practicing tiny little things. So you're afraid of going to the store, practice going to a smaller store. Mm-hmm. I don't know. You're afraid of going to the movies, just go to rent a movie at Redbox. I don't know if you all have Redbox, but go rent a movie somewhere, or go to the store and buy yourself a bag of chips just by yourself. Just force yourself to do tiny little things, and then when you get home, just realize it was okay. Like, it really is okay. I'm comfortable with being comfortable with being uncomfortable. Nothing changes if nothing changes if nothing changes. That's right. It reminds me of something someone else says. If you want things to change for you, then you must change. You have to. Otherwise, you get the same of what you had before. Too bad, but so the movie industry cannot get. The Chosen. The good thing about going to the movies by yourself is that you also get a big old bucket of popcorn to yourself.
You don't have to share.
Yeah, and a drink to yourself. You don't have to share. No, we like sharing, but
yes.
I
love popcorn though, so I like, sometimes I'll be eating it when we go to the drive-in, and he's like, "Wait, can I have some?"
And then you don't have to worry about whether or not the person washed their hands before they started putting their hands in their. See,
how do you handle, being that you've always said you've always been like an introvert in a sense? How do you handle when you are in a situation where you're surrounded by a bunch of extroverts and you're kind of like, I don't want to say you're stuck, but you kind of, in a way, you're kind of there and you can't really get out of it. How do you personally, how have you handled it? Or how have you gotten through it? So maybe somebody who is in that situation, like, what do you do? What's your go-to?
I've handled it many different ways. Sometimes I just disappear. Like I just vanish without saying anything. It's bad, but I just go. Other times, I mean, yeah, in the past I have lied and I'm like, oh man, I gotta go because babysitter is gotta go home, or make it up an excuse as to why I have to go. But lately, I just say, man, we're gonna head out. Yeah, we're tired. That's it. I'm 38. I'm tired. It's not like when you were 19, 20, and you could hang like all night long. Like I get tired after a while.
Yeah.
And certain conversations drain me. So I think the best advice that I could probably give to someone is just to be honest. Just say, hey, you know what? I'm gonna head out. Like,
it's hard for me to like not be honest, and I'm saying that, but it's hard for me if I don't want to do something, or I don't want to go somewhere, or I'm tired, or I just bluntly just don't want to. It's hard for me, and that's when the people pleaser comes in. It's hard for me to say no.
Yeah.
I have a hard time telling people no, because I'd rather me just say yes and me be like kind of like that mood and then do it, and then have them not be disappointed or frustrated or upset with me, because that makes me like, my anxiety just goes.
Oh, cool. Let's talk about that. Okay, so we're at a party or we're somewhere, we want to go home, but we know that if we say we're going to go home, that person might feel like we don't want to be there, or they might take it personal, right? I like to weigh out my options. Either I'm uncomfortable and I ask myself, okay, I'm going to be uncomfortable. If I stay, I'm going to be uncomfortable. Can I handle that? If the answer is yes, I'll stay. If the answer is no, then I'll say, okay, so then if I go home, am I okay with this person being uncomfortable with me going home? If the answer is no, then I'll stay. If the answer is yes, if like I'm okay with that person being uncomfortable, then I'll just go. Like, it's just, you weigh out your options. You say, which one am I going to be uncomfortable with, or which one's going to be the most uncomfortable situation really for me? Like, am I okay being uncomfortable because I don't want to hurt this person's feelings? Okay, then I'll stay. But if I make that choice, I'm not going to complain about it because that was my choice. So I'm consciously putting myself in that position of being uncomfortable, to make sure that the other person is comfortable. Really quickly, I just want to answer this question. So you went to the lake. Where's your sunburn?
Well, I'm sunburned right here. I don't know if you can tell. There you go. But I'm a little bit sunburned. Like, it hurts like all right here and like on my arms.
Yeah.
It doesn't look sunburned, but I have these like heat bumps, and we lathered up.
We did. It was 120
degrees.
120 degrees, and the sun was just like, bah-yow!
And then the second day, it seemed hotter because there was wind. And so, should we tell him?
Go ahead.
Do you feel bad? I won't tell him.
I feel bad, but no, you can go ahead. Tell him.
It was an accident, though.
Yeah, go ahead. Tell him.
Okay. So the second day, there was a lot of wind. So we had a canopy, and each corner of the canopy, we had like a little stick, like a stake. So you put it in the hole, but even that, it was still flying away. The wind was way too strong. So we were out. I was just under the shade for a while because I was in the water with the girls. And so I was like, I need to just kind of get some shade. So we went in under there, and I was making sandwiches, and then it was flying away again. So I went like this and I grabbed it. He grabbed it. And I'm like, all right, I lost the little stake. So I asked somebody, and they're like, oh, here's another one. I grabbed an extra one and I put it inside. I put it right. I put it in. No, you did.
I did.
Okay. This is when he did it. He put it in, right? You tell him the rest. Okay. Because I want to make sure that we get it right.
So the steak was like right here on the side, right? And I put the steak in there with the rock, used the rock. And she had another rock in her hand that she positioned right next to the steak so that it wouldn't move. But I looked away and I dropped the rock, and it landed on her finger. Nice. And now her finger is bruised. I don't know if you could see it. I'll step out of frame.
Okay, hold on.
Real quickly.
No, let me see.
Step out of frame because I think it's like it's focusing on your face. There it is. It's bruised. her finger's all bruised up. I dropped the rock.
But it was
I dropped the rock on her.
It was like completely like, and my pain tolerance is really not that high. And I freaked out. I cried. And I think that was the first time he even heard me cry that way. Like it was just, it did really hurt, you know? And then I felt bad because my cry made him feel really bad because he was like, oh my goodness, like, did I break her finger? You know, did I like, but it wasn't, it did like, I was more afraid that I was going to lose my nail. Like the nail was going to come off and I was going to have like skin. I was like, or like that I was going to be blood or something. Cause I didn't even look. It was just like, I can't, I don't want, and I was crying. And yeah, but
yeah,
it's, I put it in ice and we were there and he was a really good helper after he did.
Yeah.
It's
not broken. She can move it. It was, it's not like I threw the rock, you know, it was, it fell about maybe a foot and a half because I was sitting and I looked away and I dropped the rock when I looked away and she had put the other rock there and it landed on her hand, on her finger, but she's fine. Yeah. The finger's fine.
Breaking news.
It's bruised.
Leo's, what does it go up real quick?
Oh yeah.
Kenny.
Oh yeah.
Leo stoned
Erica.
No, it was a complete, like he felt so bad. Like
I felt horrible. I felt terrible.
And I kept telling him because even little Luna felt so bad. She was literally looked like she was gonna cry, and I was like, no, it's okay. So I had to like, she kept asking and checking up on me, and I'm like, okay, Erica, like, just say you're okay, even if it feels, because it started like just throbbing, and yeah, I'm
sorry.
It really was an accident.
I really am sorry.
Yeah.
Eric Davis coming through with the dad jokes. You can't take holding heavy rocks for granted. I love it. Thank you. Literally breaking news. No, it didn't break. Bruising news. Yes. No, yeah. Bruising news. Yes.
It's Kayla. That just means I can't do dishes for a week. So I'm just kidding.
That's my punishment. Man, that's awesome.
No, but I didn't do it. This wasn't like retaliation or anything, but like I was trying to get him on the boat. This is before, but still I was trying to get him on the boat because he had to jump on the boat. And so I was like, I got you. So I went, sorry, I'm over here. I went like this, but I didn't grab a hold.
She was supposed to grab onto me so that I could jump on the boat because I pushed it away from the shore. And I said, 1, 2, 3. And I jumped, but she didn't pull me. She just let go, really. And I came back down and hit the edge of the boat. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to throw a rock at you tomorrow.
No, that's not what he did.
I'm kidding.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
But I felt lonely in that moment.
And then my dad was like, what happened? Because nobody saw. They were in the water. So they come over here. But honestly, my dad was probably looking at Leo like, I already know Erica. Like, I know he kept looking at you because like he kept asking him too. Because I was like, had my ice in there and I was just kind of like keeping to myself. And then I knew my dad was, because like my dad was calling me Erica, and I would look and he'd be like, how are you? And I'd go, and then I knew when I turned away, he looked at Leo and was like asking Leo, is she okay?
I was like, yeah, she's all right.
And then he was like, he had that face like, yeah, I know, she cries a lot.
It's just, it was okay. I'm sorry. I really am. It was a mistake.
Accidents happen. I mean, it's not like
accident. That's what it was. Not a mistake, an accident.
Yeah, it was. It was an accident. You know, so
Yep. So that's the story of the lake. Why did we start telling that story?
I guess
we wanted to. That's why.
Well, no, we were talking about the wind, how it was winding the canopy, and then like we kept having to hold it, and then that's what we were talking about. Let's get a little back on track about feeling lonely and.
Let's see. Severe depression from a toxic, manipulative family. What to do? What to do?
That's.
Well, we always go to first. If you need to get professional help, always go get professional help. There are people who know how to listen to your story. They know what questions to ask to get the information that they need to help you out of it. From my experience, because I think we've all dealt with some kind of toxic, manipulative situation, whether it's family or not. But family, I think it's the worst because you can't really escape family. And when you do, you're cutting off your roots, really. The thing is, if I can be very honest and direct with you, we deal with things in two different ways. We deal with things in an emotional way, and we deal with things in a practical way. And it's very healthy to look at both. Okay, both, and take both into account. However, sometimes certain things require more emotion than they do practicality, and other times practicality is more needed than emotional. So for just a quick moment, I'm going to set aside the emotional part, and I'm going to bring it back in. But when we're dealing with things like practical, like dealing with this in a very practical way, it's coming to understand that hurt people hurt people. Mm-hmm. People manipulate other people because they want their way, and they don't know any other way except to lie to them, or to use leverage against them, to bribe them, blackmail them, guilt trip them. The best thing that you could do is cut yourself away from this person, from that person. Family, it's a lot harder than it sounds, especially if it's like your mom, or if it's a brother, cousins, you can get away with. But when it's like either your spouse, or it's your mother, or even a brother or a father or a brother, sister, it gets a little bit more challenging. But the very first thing that you want to do is guard yourself, like protect yourself. Know your worth, know your value, and just be honest with yourself. Do I deserve to be treated this way? If the answer is no, then go where you deserve. Go somewhere else. Go away from that situation. Pull yourself away from the situation. I'm not saying permanently, but at least for the time being, so that the person isn't around to work their ways, on you. The thing is, that's the first thing you want to do, is get away from it. The second thing is what happens to you internally, because even though you walk away from the person, their words echo and their behavior echoes inside of you, and you start questioning yourself, and you start you start feeling lonely. You start feeling very like if it's very personal, like, why me? Am I not worth being treated well? Am I not worth being understood? Maybe this is what I deserve? And you start internalizing those things, and you start creating an idea, or you start creating a story that isn't healthy, and it's not going to help you at all. So then the second thing you want to do is detach yourself from the story that you're telling yourself or about the situation. Many people just go away and they go with the story. I'm telling you, get away from the person first, and secondly, get away from the story that you're telling yourself about this person or about the situation, and learn to look at yourself for who you actually are. There's something inside of you that tells you who you are, and that is God. Tells you who you are. No one in the external world can tell you who you are. They didn't make you. They didn't create you. They weren't even with you in the womb, so they don't get to dictate, or they didn't give you life unless the person is your mother. They didn't give you life, and therefore you shouldn't take into account what they say you are. You should know God is the only one that can tell you who you are, who you truly are. And you need to retreat into that. But you need to realize that a lot of the things that we experience are layered, multi-layered. So one, escape the person. Second, escape the story. And then if you can, sort of have like a bird's eye view of the entire situation, so you can see, okay, what about this person makes them treat me the way that they do? I'm going to give you an example, completely honest. I love my mother. This is not trash talk to my mother. This is just something that I did, okay? My mother, when I was a kid, had a really difficult time. She came to a new country when I was 2 years old. She came to a new country where she wasn't speaking the language. She didn't speak the language. She had to go get work. And every single time she left her home, there was a risk of her getting caught and then getting deported. So this is like stress central, right? She would come home frustrated with things about work, didn't know how to handle the situation, the gang violence everywhere. I mean, terrible neighborhood. And there's this innocent kid who, one, didn't ask to be there, right? I didn't ask to be born, which a lot of kids today say. But she would take out her anger on me. She would take her anger out on me. And she would look at me with somewhat like disgust, because I look a lot like my dad. Like if you saw a picture of my father, like we have the exact same handsome features, except I may be a little bit more handsome because I take a lot of features from my mom too. But I look a lot like my dad. And so her anger was like, they're the same face as your dad. Now, I could have grown up and held on to that. That's toxic. That's traumatic. That was really traumatic for me. But I needed to step away from her, first of all. Second, I needed to step away from the story she was giving me about who I was. And I needed to take a bird's eye view of the situation and see, why does my mom behave the way that she behaves? One, my father used to beat her. My father used to beat her. and was very abusive in that way as well, very manipulative. Would come home drunk at 3 a.m, wake her up. I'd be crying, and she would still wake her up, say, "I'm hungry, feed me." She would go to the kitchen, cook for him, and still kind of like have me and try to take care of me. And then when she was done cooking for him, she would put the plate on the food, and he was just passed out either on the couch or there on the table, and he wouldn't even eat the food. So she cooked for no reason, for nothing. So she herself was abused. And sometimes they don't know how to. My mom didn't know how to separate herself from the man. She separated from him when she left, but she still carried my dad with her when we were here. And a lot of the things that made her angry about my dad, she took out on me. So it wasn't so much that my mom was toxic, is that she didn't know how to deal with the things that the heaviness that was in her heart. So me being myself being a little bit more emotionally intelligent, see, this is where the emotion comes in. Being emotionally intelligent meant that I had to understand where my mom was coming from, so that I don't make the same mistake she made, so that I don't carry her anger and then give it to my children. I had to free myself from all that. And so my advice is first separate yourself from the person, and then be careful not to take that person with you. Remember, we spoke about the internal maps earlier. Don't make them a part of your internal maps. Also extract them from your internal world and say, you have no power over me. You don't get to dictate who I am. You don't get to say when I eat, when I sleep, what I do, what I can wear, what I can say, what I can't say, who I can have friends, what friends I can have, who I talk to. You don't want to dictate any of that. I do, because I am free. And I am free. I am free. So freeing yourself psychologically, emotionally, and mentally. So the practicality comes in you understanding that the person's behavior isn't just rooted in them. It comes from somewhere else. So if you can understand that, it'll help you understand why they behave that way towards you, and then free yourself from all that. Do you have any input? Sorry.
No, it's okay.
I didn't want to repeat myself.
No. You said a lot of good things. I mean, I've personally dealt with, I'm not going to say names, but I've dealt with people where I've felt like I was manipulated into doing things, always saying yes, being there when there was times that I even would cancel out things to make sure that I did those favors, or I did that errand, or I dropped, things that I needed to do that were important, because in some way it was guilt. I was guilt tripped into doing it. I was made to feel bad. Like, if you don't do it, then you don't love me. That's been one of the things I've been told, that has been mentioned to me. And that hurts, because I love hard, like really big, like, and I do genuinely love. And so that was like, that hurt me, because I'm like, if I don't do that, means I don't love them. And because I take that so personally and emotionally, I was like, well, then I don't want them to think that. So then I would do it. I think what's helped me now is really setting those healthy boundaries as well. I have to set the boundaries. And sometimes even just loving some of those people from a distance. Yeah.
And you have to be careful too, because you don't want to run into another pattern that happens. So sometimes, I stopped that. I cut that chain or that pattern so I wouldn't pass it down to my children. But here's what some people do. They don't pass it down to other people. They're abusive to themselves. They start manipulating themselves, lying to yourself, abusing yourself by using drugs, escaping to different things, having multiple partners, you name it. I mean, even watching too much TV could be abuse to yourself. You're wasting time. You're not taking advantage of the precious time that God is giving you. And you're again, I don't say this to be insensitive, okay, but you're just wallowing in your emotions, and you're not wanting to grow from it. I mean, that's the whole point, is that we're supposed to grow. We're supposed to grow closer to God. And when we're in our mind and when we're in our emotions, we're saying, okay, I trust that you can take care of me. I trust that you can heal my heart, but I have to bring it over here for just a second and deal with it on my own. And God's just like, okay, all right, whenever you're ready. And it's much easier to say, okay, here, I take on my yoke, as the thing said previously. You don't want to hurt yourself. You don't want to do things that are self-sabotaging. I've done that before.
I've self-sabotaged a lot, and you're right. It is really easy when it's a lot easier for you and yourself if you just try not to get so emotional, or let those things go in a sense, or but I struggle with that, it's one of the things that I do struggle with, and but I'm a lot better now than I was even just like a few months ago, a year ago. I've really got a hold of more on my emotions and trying to be, which he's helped me a lot with, trying to be more practical, not forgetting my emotions, but learning that I'm in control of my emotions and not allowing other people to really, like, I would say, well, no, they made me feel this way. No one makes us feel anyway. They
can appeal or petition.
Yeah. But ultimately we are the final person to really say, am I really going to make that emotion come to life? Or, like I'm the one who brings it really out in the open, by reacting. And if maybe I just take a step back, process, analyze, be more practical, like he's helping me with right now, even, it would just make it a lot easier for myself. And I'm pretty sure for a lot of you who are maybe dealing with it as well, it could make things smoother. It may seem easier said than done. I know we hear this, we have people tell you, just do it, it's easy. And sometimes you have that mentality where you're like, well, you don't know what I've gone through. It's easier said than done for you
not in my head.
Because your situation is different, which I totally understand. And I'm not going to lie, sometimes it was hard for me and him to communicate that, because sometimes I'd be like, well, we have different stories. My story is different than yours. And that's so, but then I was like,
the suffering is the same.
Yes, the pain is still there and it's still equal. We were both hurt in a way that made us feel less than what we were, or unworthy, or unloved, and unwanted, and undeserving, all those things. So that's still the same. And we want the same outcome, which is to love more, to spread that love. So I had to learn to really break down that wall, because I built a wall, a very tall wall, high wall.
There's no mountain you won't climb up.
There,
really, wall you won't knock down.
No, I had built a really big wall from the little bit, if you guys watched the last live that we did, a little bit of what I talked about. And he came into my life, we connected in a time where I was still in the healing process. So we would bump heads a little bit, because I was very emotional and I was stubborn. If I can be completely honest, I was being stubborn. I didn't want to be practical. I wanted to be okay to feel what I wanted to feel. And it took me to break down my wall, come down here and say, you know what? He's not the enemy. He is not my past. He is not that person. He's not those people. He's trying to help me. So I'm going to allow him to help me. And it took me to really break down crying, to let all of that down. And
yeah. And a lot of us have that relationship with Christ. Sometimes we just have to realize that Christ is not our enemy. He's not against us. He is really trying to help us, and letting go and trusting someone is hard. It really is hard, especially for those of us who have been hurt. And that's what this channel is all about for me. That we're gonna love and grow together in that love. I just want to give a quick shout out to the adaptive Martimer. Is Alicia's husband.
Oh,
hi.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us. So one of the things that we want to talk about, or one of the stories that I wanted to share with you earlier, and this will probably carry us out, and we can still have a conversation afterwards, but I just want to share this story with you all. I'm not sure if I should read this quote first or afterwards.
Maybe after?
Let's do it before and after. How about that? So maybe it can make sense. Okay, so here we go. So Philippians 4:6-7 says, do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, I'm going to repeat that, in every situation, through prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, I'm going to repeat that, the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. The reason why I put an emphasis on every situation is because sometimes we just are thankful sometimes, and we go into prayer when something's not going our way. And sometimes we only give thanks for things when things are going our way. When they're going good, we don't want to give thanks. But this is saying, in every situation, through prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your request to God. So saying thank you for this thing that I'm asking you for, and if you don't give it to me, that's fine. Or if this doesn't pan through the way that I wanted to, thank you anyway. But the important part of this phrase, the reason why I brought it up is this part that says, "And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus." The last time we came on here, familia, I gave you the analogy of a sacred space that's inside of you. So if this is my mind and this is where, how I look at the world, that there's a sacred space inside of you that you can walk through these gates and the world cannot enter that space. It's sacred, it's holy, it's full of light. Okay, this is not new age stuff. This is not anything you won't learn anywhere else. It's just an analogy. Okay, I'm not trying to teach new age or teach any pagan or any other things. Just just walk with me here on this analogy. There's a space inside of you that once you go through that gate, your mind and all your emotions cannot disturb you. You're at peace. This is heaven. Okay, peace, fear, anxiety, all that stuff is not welcome there. It's just joy, understanding, love, kindness, freedom is in that space. So it says in this verse that the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, meaning it's beyond all understanding. Again, your mind cannot enter into that space. Your understanding is going to be limited. It doesn't know that space, and that peace of God is going to guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. And remember, in this conversation that we've had about the Holy Spirit, it says that when Christ left, he sent his advocate. And there was a quote that said, "My peace I give you, my peace I leave you, my peace I give you." And we talked about, I don't know if you all saw the short video that I posted a few days ago that talks about how the Holy Spirit is the peace of God, is God's peace, it's Christ's peace, right? And so we have to make sure that we understand that for what I'm about to tell you. Okay, that space, that peace. There was a story that I read a few maybe years ago. I really forgot who it was, but it tells a story of these two friends that grew up together. Right? They known each other since their early youth, and they cared about one another. They protected each other. They were very honest with each other. And when they were grown up, one of them married, and the other stayed single. But they always stayed together. They spent some time, and the one who was married said, "Hey, I just noticed that my wife, she likes to spend. She spends a lot, and I have this inheritance for her. But I'm afraid that if I give it to her, she's going to spend it all and leave our children with nothing. When I'm gone, they're going to be, they're not going to be okay." So he said, "So I'm going to tell you a secret. I buried this money underneath the house. I'm telling you because I trust you, and if I ever die or if I'm no longer here, I want you to know so that you can, take care of them." And he said, "Yeah, no problem." A few years passed, and this other friend, the second friend, the one who was told the secret, the unmarried one, was walking down the street and saw his friend's wife in the street begging for money. And he said, "Oh my, like I know this person." So he approaches her and says, "Hey, what's going on?" And she looked at him. She's like, "Oh, a familiar face." He's like, "Oh, I know you. You're my husband's friend, right?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm." He's like, "But I am." Like, "What's going on?" She's like, "Did you not hear?" Like, "No, what happened?" He's like, "Well, my husband died 2 years ago, and I'm out in the street, and we need help. Like, I've been begging for food and begging, to make it to take care of the kids." And he said, "Oh, I'm so sorry to hear this." He's like, "I feel terrible because I should have been up to date with my friend. I should have been more in touch, and I would have known." And he's like, "But I have good news for you." And the girl was like, "Good news?" She lit up because this was a person that she knew she could trust. If the friend said, "I have good news for you," that means he could be trusted with that he was going to give her good news. He said, "Your husband actually left you some money." He said, "Come, let's go and dig it up." And so they went to the house and they started digging together, and they found this box and it had a lot of money, right? So she was relieved because now she was going to be able to afford to keep the home and do everything she had to do to take care of the family, right? And I remember this person asked, was she rich before she knew about this box? No. She didn't know that this box of money was there under, like buried underneath her house. So she wasn't aware of this. And familia, the reason why I forgot how the story ends is it ends somewhere like that. But the point is that a lot of us have Christ, but we don't know the inside of us, but we do not know the value of that. We don't know that he's buried in there inside of us, and we're dealing and we're asking people to give us attention, to give us love, to give us kindness, to give us understanding, to give us all these things that we were begging for it from the world, not knowing that inside of us there's this treasure that he's already dug for you, that he already has in place. All you need to do is go and look for it, but you won't, because you don't know about it. So somebody comes along to you with good news, right? And you go, you dig it up, and then you find everything that you're looking for. Everything that you're looking for. I'm not sure where this story comes from. To be honest, I heard it like many years ago, like maybe 4 or 5 years ago. But you already have that wealth. Yeah. It's already inside of you if you're willing to. The issue, familia, is that we're not taught this. We're not taught this. And I see a great need for us to be able to not just understand how the world works, not just to know that the evil one is like out there in the world trying to distract you and pull you away from your spiritual duties, right? But that you also have golden treasure, like everything you need, everything you need is inside of you. You just need to know that it's there. You need to know to look for it. We already know enough about the external world. It's your internal maps that I'm personally, and that we are working together, but that I personally have for a very long time wanted to share with people. And we want to share that with you all through this channel, is that what's your internal map telling you? How are you being lied to? How are you, not just by the world, but by your own self? Maybe we need to reevaluate what things mean to us, what life means to us, what those specific situations, what did it mean that my mom was so mean to me when I was a kid? What did that mean? I could have given it a bad meaning, and I could have made friends with gangsters, and I could have been a gangster myself right now, and probably either in jail or in hell, like one of my teachers used to say. Either in jail or in the cemetery. That would have been my mission. But I reevaluated what it meant, and I saw that my mom herself was going through some heavy trauma and pain, and she was just pouring it out on me. So let's look within. I'm not sure how. I want to be free. I want to be free and tell you all exactly how I think this and how I just want to say it freely. And if I can have your permission to say it freely without me being hesitant. The hesitation comes from, I'm not sure what your churches are teaching you about what it means to look within. Because I don't know if they're teaching you like, oh, anyone who says look within, beware because they're of the devil, or they're, false teachers. I'm not trying to be a teacher here. There's only, like the scripture says, there's only one teacher, and his name is Christ. There's only one teacher. So I'm not here to teach you anything. I'm just here to remind you. Again, I'm just here to point back to that sacred space. All I'm saying is that there's a space inside of you that is already sacred, that is absolutely perfect. Don't be attached to that word. Okay. A lot of people have a definition to that word. Don't be attached to that word, but it's already perfect. It's trouble-free. It's freedom. It's joy. It's unburdened. It's light. Okay. This is where Christ is. This is this right here. Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me. Learn from me. So he's saying he's at peace. He was human, and he was full God. He was full human, but he was not disturbed by the things of this world. Remember, he went away and spent time. I don't know if it was like the woods or in the desert somewhere, and the evil one came and tempted him. And he stayed firm in what he was. He wasn't he was tempted by the world, but he was not tempted internally by it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Did I say that correctly?
You did. You're
right?
just on a roll. So keep going.
This is why earlier, in my previous live, I mentioned that space, because from that space, I can look at the gate and I could see the world coming at me and saying, look at this, taste this, try this, feel this. And I'm here like, no, because I know the nature of it. I know that the moment that I give it my attention, it's got me under its control. So when somebody says, hey, have this beer, it's just one beer. From behind here, I go, no, I'm okay. I'm okay. Because I don't know. Honestly, I've never drank, but I don't know. I have a wine here every once in a while. I might have a little bit of tequila with a little bit of soda, but I'm not like, hey, let's go out and and then and all that, right? I'm not like that, because I don't know what genetically I've already picked up from my father that might trigger something, and then I will spiral down into some hole that I can't get myself out of. So I'd rather just, from back here, from behind the gate, I'm going to look at it. From behind the gate, I can observe it. And I know the nature of the world is to keep me in the world. And right here, I'm completely fine. I'm completely fine. Any questions about that? I know I just rambled and went on and on and on, but to me, this is what's special about this. Learn from me, he says, right? And you will find rest for your souls, because he's gentle and he's lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. So let's learn from that. How can we be unburdened? How can we get to a place where we cannot be burdened? How can we come to a place where the world can tempt us, but I will not be tempted? How can I get to the place where the world will attract me, but I will not be attracted? Does that make sense, familia? Can you please let me know in the live chat? Does that make sense? Meaning the world comes to tempt me, but I am not tempted. The world comes to hate me, but I am not hated. The world comes to seduce me, but I am not seduced. The world comes to bring me down, but I'm not brought down. That's the nature of the world. It's going to do what it does. I can't control those things, but the only thing that I can control is this internal world. Yeah. And if it does peek through, then I need to go and see where the holes are and patch them up. So that it doesn't peek through these holes or seep in. Creep in. We must keep our focus on Jesus. Hey, Matt. Yes. Welcome, Senor. Happy belated Father's Day to you and to all the other fathers.
All the fathers out there
as well. It was Father's Day this Sunday in America. So yeah, the space you were talking about for me is me as a child, and Christ is there as my Father, holding me as the best Father ever. Ever perfect Father. That's right. What's it like for you, familia? Have you experienced that sacred space? What is it like for you? Listen, we're all different. Some of us hear things, think are they're called modalities. Our way of thinking is sound, so we talk to ourselves. Some of us are very visual, so we make pictures of things. That's how we think. What's your preferred way of thinking? Are you a person who hears things, or are you a person who makes pictures? Is it a combination of both, or are you a feeler?
Oh, well, I'm more of a feeler. I feel.
You feel okay.
I am. I'm a feeler, and honestly, the here, you said, like, not talking to myself, but we talk to ourselves. I do. Like, I have to remind myself. No, go ahead. Sorry.
No. Pause. And look, if you think that you're crazy for talking to yourself, you're not. Okay, because even like a psychologist listening to you is like, oh well, I say to myself, don't be negative. And then the psychologist goes, oh, he talks to himself. I think he's crazy. Meanwhile, the psychologist is talking to himself.
Well, I don't think I'm crazy for I don't mean it like that.
Oh, okay.
I don't think I'm crazy for talking to myself. I don't argue with myself. I'm just kidding. But
who said that? Shut up.
But I'm a feeler for sure.
Okay.
And I do, like, I have conversations with myself it's mainly to get myself out of the feelings that I'm feeling. Like, okay, Erica, that feeling that you're feeling is actually not happening. Like, it's okay. Let's reel it back. And let's get into a more of a peaceful state. I pray a lot and listening to worship, and I sit there, and sometimes I just get lost in the words, the music, and even in my own prayer in my head. Like, sometimes I put headphones on, go into my car, not listening to anything, but for some reason I feel like the headphones in my ears is blocking out any other noise, and I pray silently. And that's my way of also.
So you're a feeler, sort of hearer.
Yes.
Okay, cool. I'm big on pictures and sound as well. So obviously music, right? The adaptive says, it's a funny thing about temptations. I find that I have no interest in the things that worldly people are tempted by. Okay, perfect. Familia, remember, this is a perfect example of that. You can only be tempted by the things that you have, that you hold as valuable. You can only be tempted by the things that you hold as valuable. So, for example, for me, I don't value something like, let's just say, what's something I'm not interested in? Like,
Well,
I like a lot of things.
well, no, I mean, you like material, but you're not. I don't know. Like,
Okay, so
you're
like
not
a diamond ring.
Like you're not
I'm
materialistic,
not materialistic,
with like jewelry
right?
and stuff,
Nothing
and like
wrong.
clothing. Like you're just
Nothing wrong with liking diamond rings
No.
or fancy clothing, right? Nothing wrong. To each his own. Every world every head is its own world. But I don't value diamond rings, like things like that, like gold chains or gold necklaces. I don't, right? I don't. So nobody can tempt me with that stuff, because to me, I don't give it any value. It's not valuable to me. Now, offer me a taco.
I was literally going to say that now.
Offer me a taco. I love it. So you could tempt me with a taco. No, you can't. But you know what I'm saying? So if you are easily tempted by things, you have to back it up and say, why? Why do I hold that as valuable? Why is that valuable to me? Because what's valuable to you may not be valuable to someone else. I've got this other story too. It kind of reminds me of like when like the conquistadores came to the Americas, and the natives were just giving them like gold, right? And they were like, oh, they're just giving it all away like that, and so they wanted more of it.
Yeah.
There's another story of this person who had a mirror, and someone who was like a native somewhere was like, what is that? And he's like, oh, it's a mirror. You can see yourself. And he's like, here, look at it. And he goes, oh, look, it's a mirror. Oh, wow. Where can I get more of this? Like, this is awesome, right? And then he's like, I'll trade you for some of that gold. Take it. Yeah. Look at that. What a fool. I just gave him a rock, and he gave me this mirror. Look at this. Wow. The other person values the gold, and this person values the mirror. Like and the other person's like, it's just a mirror. And this guy's like, that's just a rock.
I'm afraid of rocks. Don't mention rock.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. It's because you didn't get it at
I got it
earlier. I was like,
sorry.
Rock.
A little slow sometimes, right? But each one of us values something different, so you can't be tempted by something you don't value. So if you value, for example, I don't know, what's something that people are struggling with. Never mind. Well, I'll think of something later. But anyway, that's the gist of it, is that you can't be tempted. Bowling balls, yes. I don't. Yeah, you can't tempt me with bowling balls.
So what is the phrase when somebody says you're tempting me right now and they're angry? Because I've been one of those people where
testing me, probably.
Oh,
no?
Tempting.
You're testing.
Oh yeah, you're right. Just kidding.
Okay.
Totally wrong tea.
No, and yeah, wrong tea. Pizza, yeah. No, not tacos. Yeah, definitely brought up food. It's always something about food, right? But anyway, we all think and see things differently. Some of us make pictures in our head, and that's how we arrange our thoughts. It's important that we learn to step away from that and say, okay, this other person is repeating. Like, for example, if I were attached to the things that my mom said, I would still be repeating them in my head right now, and they would still affect me. They would still hold me down, like they would still be limiting me, and it's just something that I can't do. I can't have. See where someone spends their time and their money, that's where you find their heart. It is okay to own nice things, but don't be owned by them. That's right. And that's, I think, where people have a hard time splitting or making the line. There's this guy named Jiddu Krishnamurti, who was saying that desire starts the moment you do this. He said, I can walk by a store and I could see a beautiful suit, right? It's not tempting me yet. I can look at the material and feel it and go, wow, this material is really nice. It feels really great, right? It feels nice. And then look at the color. Wow, it's a nice blue. Love it. beautiful blue. Look at this cut, and I can appreciate the stitching. Look at the stitching; it's so beautiful. Like somebody actually took their time and stitched this really nice. Look at the shirt combination. They combined these two colors really beautifully. The tie looks really good. Still, no temptation. Just appreciating the thing. The moment that temptation or that desire enters into the scenario is when I start picturing myself in that suit. The moment that I say, I want to see what it looks like on me. I want to have it for myself. That's when desire and temptation comes in. I can look at something and say, well, yeah, it's nice. Yeah, it's cool from a distance. But the moment that I start picturing myself in it, that's where I get in trouble. Because now I want to have it. If I don't have it, why did this person have it and I don't? And oh, it's this much, and I don't have that kind of money because I don't have that kind of job. And why did that person see envy, hatred, jealousy? You know, maybe I'll come back later and I'll break in and I'll steal it. Now I'm stealing. Like, that's where we started to get in trouble, is when we start picturing ourselves in that thing or in that car or with that person, or that's when you start looking at your neighbor's wife differently, or where you start looking at your neighbor's car, or fill in the blank. Donuts. Fill in the blank. Yeah.
Eric Davis has to go. He has the date night with his beautiful wife.
With the Mrs. Edav 333. Well, enjoy your date night. Have
a
fun.
good night.
Yeah, have a good night. Thank you so much for joining the conversation. So, yeah, Satan tempted Jesus' flesh, right? So there was these 3 temptations that Satan himself came and told Christ, right? Said, hey, all these kingdoms can be yours. And he's like, what do I care about that? I own everything. I'm the King of Kings. Why do I want? You're going to tempt me with something earthly here? You're going to tempt me with something ephemeral, with something impermanent? No, thanks. Like, turn that rock into bread and feed yourself. It's like, look, you can't tempt the Lord like that. You can't test the Lord that way. This is where I'm supposed to be, right? Okay, offered him kingdoms, offered him freedom, offered him all kinds of stuff. You could save yourself. The angels can come and save you. He didn't give in. He was tempted. That's the thing. Family, you got to remember, the world will tempt you, but you yourself cannot be tempted. Okay, so circling back to this thing about loneliness.
Yeah.
It all fits. Believe me, it all fits.
Of course. It really does.
Go within yourself and ask yourself what it is that you're valuing. What is it that you value? You value somebody else's opinion? Ask yourself why. Why do I want that person's approval? Why do I want that person's approval? To go start a business, to wear this dress, to put on that tie, to want to go and, I don't know, skydiving or whatever it is that you want to do. Like, why do I need that person's approval?
I don't think it really necessarily I don't think it feels like we need it. I think it's just sometimes it's good to hear it mostly. I don't know why. I mean, maybe you can explain why we feel that way. But a lot of it is I don't think I really need the approval, because I'm one of those people like who won't do something or will second guess myself if I feel like somebody's not okay, or they're like, no, I don't think that's a good idea. I take it like I won't do it then. I don't know. I second guess myself. Like, well, then maybe they don't even think, maybe they're not thinking that it's not a good idea, but maybe they're thinking that I can't do it. And that's their way of saying it. So then I start internalizing and saying, well, then maybe they're right. Maybe I can't do it. And so I'm not going to do it, because that's probably why they're telling me.
Right.
Like, and I do that a lot.
But you see, sometimes a lot of people do that. We project what we can't do to other people. There was a Chinese proverb or something that says, something like, I'm going to butcher it, but a person who cannot do something should not interrupt the person who's actually doing it.
Oh, it's good.
Just because I can't do it doesn't mean you can't, right? Like, otherwise we wouldn't have ever come up with planes and cars or marathons. Like, I'm pretty sure, David, you're a runner. You can probably tell us, but when was the first time that a person actually ran a mile in there was like a certain amount of time that people believed no man can run a mile in 10 minutes or whatever it was. It was like a ridiculous amount of time. And someone was like, I'm going to try it. And they're like, you can't do it. It can't be done. Why? Because no human before that had ever done it. Right?
A mile?
A mile.
Oh,
like 1 mile. Like at a certain time. Like it was like a certain time that you could do it. 10 minutes. I don't know what it is. Right? You know, I'm pretty sure David knows. And then one person did it, and everybody's like, "Oh," he's like, "Yeah, I did it." And he goes, "Well, if he could do it, maybe I can." And then more people started trying to do it, and then they started doing it, and then before you know it, they did it in half the time, and even faster, and even faster, and it gets.
What's your fastest mile time?
I really don't know. I really don't know. First of all, it's been a while since I ran. Okay, there you go. 4 minute mile. There it is.
Oh wow.
So believe it or not, there was a
amazing.
time when someone believed that you could not run a mile in 4 minutes. It's just impossible. I think in the times where cars were invented, I think they believed that if you drove a car faster than 30 miles, you would die. Like,
wow,
because your body couldn't handle that speed. And look at us now. Like, I mean, like NASCAR. You know, I don't know how fast they go in NASCAR, but we the thing is, times change, right? Yeah. And what we believe about ourselves really matters. Anyways, circling back again to loneliness, familia, you're never alone. Mm-mm. You're never alone. Just remember these quotes. One is, it says, "Come to Christ, come inside, come home, and he will give you rest." A lot of us feel lonely because we're tired and we don't feel understood.
Yeah.
Right. And another one. Here's another. Where is it? Here's another quote. "Fear not, for I am with you."
Fear not, for I am with you.
Yeah. If he's with you, you are in him, and there's no fear inside of him.
Nope.
And so therefore, he's asking you, don't be afraid. I'm with you. I'm with you. It's like it's like having a life vest. It's like, okay, so we got on the Sea-Doos, right?
Oh, he got on the little jet ski because people might say, "What's a Sea-Doo?"
It was a big jet ski. Don't make me look bad.
It was.
It was a big one, not a little one. No, I was kidding.
Well, it was a decent size.
It was a decent size.
I drove it.
Right. I'm afraid of the water. Like I have this thing about water. I'm not terrified of the water, right? But I don't trust myself to be able to swim. I can float. Okay, I can float, and I can probably swim. But I don't know that I can trust myself to swim long distance if I needed to. So it kind of makes me nervous, right? But I got on the jet ski, and we were floating around, right? I mean, we were like riding around. But I had a life jacket on, and I knew that if I can fall in the water, that the life vest would keep me above, so I wouldn't drown. Like I know that. So in the same way, we fall back and we walk. He says, "Come to me, fear not, for I am with you." As long as you know that he's with you, there's no reason to fear. You won't drown. He walks on water, for God's sakes.
Amen.
Right? So what are you afraid of? He'll probably just pull you up and you'll be walking alongside with him. And that's the lesson that I learned there. And then here's another one, Deuteronomy 31:8. "The Lord himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged." Again, there's many, many more reminders here from me that God is always with you.
Always.
And there's nothing wrong with feeling lonely. Just go inside and observe. Just watch the world from inside. You're fine. You'll be happy. And then when you're ready to go back out into the world, you won't be tempted. Mm-hmm. And then finally, do not be anxious for anything, but in every situation, through prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your request to God, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. Mm-hmm. This is so beautiful. With thanksgiving, present your request to God, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding. Mm-hmm. And you can understand how peaceful this peace of God is. Like, it's not just peaceful, but it guards your heart and your mind, so you can find comfort in his peace, in his presence. Yes. All right, family. Any last words here? Any last words from you all here?
And if you're ever feeling alone, you have La Familia too. Okay, we're here, always. Always here. And do you have it?
Yes.
Okay. And you can join us on our Discord. Leonardo's going to post it right now, where you'll always be welcomed and loved there. And if you're ever feeling down and you just want to talk to somebody, you can go in. There's a lot of different rooms. You can, if you just need prayer, you just want to type, if you're feeling something, let us know. And there's going to always be someone there that's going to lift you up always. You know,
seriously, we do have so many wonderful people there that are waiting to listen. You don't need to go on there and share your personal information if you don't want to.
Just want to talk.
It's just, you can even just be in a room watching everybody else converse, and every once in a while step in and just say something. Maybe you have a picture of your dog that you want to share.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to share a recipe, or maybe you cook and you want to know a recipe. You can look on the food server or the food page channel,
the like La Familia recipe bakery, something like that. It's called.
There's a recipe thing, and you can take somebody else's recipe, cook, and then if you try it, share it.
Yeah, and then there's worship. You can listen to music. You can literally just go in there, listen to music, go on mute. You don't even really need to converse with anybody, but you just feel really surrounded by loving people. It's an amazing feeling. Yeah. So come join us.
And which reminds me, this is also a call. Okay, this is a call to all of us, that to remember that there are people who are hurt, there are people who are feeling lonely, there are people who feel unworthy, unloved, and so many of these sort of lowered emotions, right? And sometimes they just need one person to listen. So this is a call for all of you to come and just listen to people. Maybe they might say something you don't agree with. Maybe you might have insight. Sometimes just listening is enough. So you don't always have to answer their question. You don't always have to be the solution to their problem. Just listening could be enough for that person. Because sometimes it's happened to me often. Sometimes I'll internalize something and I'll have a problem. And the moment that I say it out loud, in the middle of me saying it out loud, I go, never mind. I just totally solved it. I know what I need to do, because I needed to say it to someone, right? I just needed to get it out there. And and something, this is a call for you all to be an ear to someone, and listen to them. Anything else?
Any last minute question?
A lot of love on there. See, Jackie. I want a fast ride amusement park, and my body could not handle it. I'm sorry.
I'm pretty sore too from the lake and just the boat and the jet skis.
Oh yeah, we were live. Sorry, Zoe. Thanks for the words of wisdom. Thank you, Care Bear. Thank you,
Care Bear J316.
Always here for each other. That's right. That's right. So thank you all so much for joining us today. We hope that today was insightful. If you did get something valuable from this talk, you can do us a huge favor and hit the like button, either if you're watching on Facebook or on YouTube. It'll help us out greatly with the algorithm. This will let YouTube know that you like the content on here, and it'll promote it to more people, and hopefully get some more lonely people to feel, loved and appreciated as well.
You are loved, all of you.
We did not talk about tacos enough.
We didn't.
Right. For that reason, I'm going to go get some tacos. By the way, also tomorrow, I'm not sure yet who I'm going to have on the show.
Thursday,
we're going to have a taco party. Our good friend Boiling Point Man, aka Eric Björklund, is his band, Boiling Point. We'll be releasing a new album, and we're going to have a taco party. We're going to be listening to some of the tracks, and there's a very special track on there that you all do not want to miss.
You don't want to miss it. If you know, you know.
If you know, you know. In fact, let's just let them know.
Okay, fine.
Let them know.
Well, there's going to be a specific someone we may know, kind of. He likes a lot of tacos, lemon cake. He's kind of this like YouTube guy. I don't know. He's got a weird looking mustachio. Just kidding. He is going to be featured in one of them. So you guys got to he has a guitars. He's the guitar solo in there. And right? This is the guitar
it's
part.
just a guitar part.
The guitar part.
Yeah.
The whole way through. So you don't want to miss it. There's going to be tacos. If we could share the tacos through the screen, we would love to.
One day.
But if you have tacos and you're able to make tacos that day, make tacos. We can all eat tacos together, because we're going to have tacos that day.
Yeah. The time is still to be determined, but just join us on Discord and we'll make an announcement, and then we'll share some tacos, and Boiling Point will join us, and we'll talk about the songs and the album and all that fun stuff. All right, familia?
Yeah.
we would like to thank you for joining us, not just on this live, but for joining us and spreading love all around the world.
Yeah.
You play a very important part.
You do.
You're really important to this world, to spread love and to be kind to someone today, tomorrow, and forever.
Yeah.
We're grateful for that. So continue.
Yeah.
Keep up the good work.
We love you guys so much.
Keep spreading love.
And if you guys have any other topics you want us to talk about, if you guys like this, you can just let us know.
Yeah, let us know in the comment section down below. If you have a story about anything we discussed, discuss it in the comments down below.
Yes.
And as always, thank you so much for joining us. And we'll see you on our next adventure.